My name is Jack Casady. I play the electric bass guitar. I have for quite a while. You start with the construction of the song and the chord changes, but there's two ways. When I'm working with the basic part building of the songs, it depends on whether I hear the song having that support role for each chord, where you play the tonic for each chord, or whether I'm going. So sometimes I'll hear the line between the chord changes. Sometimes I want to make a decision that I want there to be a moving line at all times to keep a rolling feel going on to the song. And sometimes I'll hear the melody and I'll hear it within the context of the song, and then I flesh the melody out. And then the decision is, in the bass world, when you start to hear the bass move into a melodic area, it takes your attention away from the roots of the song and a more primal aspect of the song. Then you have to make a decision whether it's worth, when you take that person's attention away, and hand them part of the melody in the bass range, because other parts of the song are going to be kind of dropped back for them. So you hopefully, as the years go by, you get away from just cramming the stuff that you want to play in all the time, no matter what, to making it make compositional sense within the whole context of the song. Because after all, you have you guys may not want to recognize this, but there's the singer, the melody, the words, the feeling of the song. There's the subliminal, the part that's below the belt, it's going on in the song, what's happening in the song. That's those parts of the song that draw people in to the song. It's like you hear a good beat next door, you hear some pulse going on. That's the part that you don't even hear the melody or context or the words or anything, but something draws you into that song. Something's pulling you into it. That to me is the most primal, important part, of bass playing. And then you can introduce other aspects for it. Now I've gone through different parts of my period where I've executed that well and left it pretty much by the wayside for wherever I wanted to blast off to at the particular time, But as I get older, I try to work that in as part of my craft work. I try now at age 68, almost years old. I'm very aware of trying to pick the right notes. Always get the right notes. I've always wanted to do that, but it's always about that, finding the right notes, finding the right combinations. What's going to make that phenomenon happen, where the sum total is more than the parts. We released Steady As She Goes in March of 2011, it was we had 21 years between studio albums for Hot Tuna, although during those 21 years, we were out every single year for at least 100 and some shows. So we've had a lot of different projects going on at the time over these last years. But we're now doing an acoustic Hot Tuna, which consists of Jorma Kalkkonen, myself, and Barry Mitterhoff on mandolin and tenor guitar and banjo and a whole plethora of other instruments, and where we'll play a number of songs from this latest album, plus delve deeply into our repertoire. The electric band has had, the Hot Tuna Electric's had many different people in it over a period of time, and I think rhythmically we wanted to find a bit of a new direction, and luckily 3 years ago Scooter Warner came into our lives, and we started to do shows together, and we started to really like getting back into the electric music, which we sort of suspended for a number of years. And when we started to investigate new rhythmic foundations to the new songs that were coming along, we started having a ton of fun. But the timing wasn't right. There wasn't a record label that was available to us until Jorma recorded a solo album on Red House, and the people were so nice to him that he suggested to them and asked if they would be interested in Hot Tuna, the Jorma Jack project. So they were interested, and we settled on what we were going to do in the band, which was Scooter Warner, Barry Mitterhoff, Jack and Jorma, and a producer, Larry Campbell, with his wife Teresa working as a vocalist as well. We went into Levon Helms' studio that Larry's very familiar with, and of course he works with Levon in the Midnight Rambles, and has worked with Levon in a number of ways. So there was a very comfortable environment, a great wood studio barn-like atmosphere. The tone was fantastic. We just basically set up in a circle, and I said, like I was sitting here, and Scooter was on a little riser, minimal baffles. So I had a little baffle here. I used my Epiphone bass, the Jack Casady model, this very bass, with an Aguilar cabinet that I designed with Dave Boonshoft at Aguilar, which is 2 8s and a 5, with George Alessandro Basset Hound 30-watt amplifier, all true, point to point, nice warm sound. And that's the setup I used for the whole album. And I was able to get a big sound with it, and I just by working the controls and these things, I was able to get the different kinds of sounds I wanted, from ballads to big open string basic kind of sounds to good hard tight rock sounds. And Barry Mitterhoff was across from me with a little baffle, and Jorma's directly across like this. When it's acoustic, then the baffle would come up. When he's using electric, then the baffle would come down a bit, and Larry Campbell was over here for a number of tracks, and he and I and Scooter would work on a lot of rhythm section stuff together and set the songs up, and it was just a ton of fun. The album had material that was done ahead of time, one song that we've been playing out on the road for a while, but we came in to rearrange it, the segues from chorus to chorus and verses. And Larry was the great taskmaster on that, because he'd come up with all these licks, and we had to learn all these licks. Of course, they're all guitar licks, so I'm trying to pull them off as best I can on the bass. And we started to have a lot of fun fleshing out the foundations of the songs to make them really good for Jorma to sing on. I really wanted Jorma's singing to be at its fullest potential on the album, and my design coming into that album was to give him good solid bass parts, good solid rhythm section parts. So Scooter, myself, and Larry Campbell really worked on that essence of the songs. Jorma, of course, focuses on his finger picking for the more ballad, prettier songs, and electric guitar, for the more rock and roll stuff. So we took the songs as they came and decided whether they were going to have a harder edge or a softer edge and try different things out. And there were songs that were completely arranged in the studio. I mean, all the arrangements were basically done in the studio on the spot. And but some of the songs were written and beforehand, a couple of years beforehand. And some songs were put together right on the spot. Smoke Ride's Journey is a song I brought the music to. Larry contributed a bridge, and Yorma wrote all the lyrics, and that song came together completely in the studio. And that's what I love about bands working together in that situation. And unlike when you're young and pig-headed, everybody listened to everybody else's ideas with no hesitation, just jumping into the idea and trying to do the best they could as we worked through. So it was just an ideal circumstance, and believe me, we worked hard. We were in there early in the morning and left late at night. We did the album in 11 days, but they were very intense days. But the good kind of intense, So it was a ton of fun. The teaching's been a big part the last 15 years. It's not for everybody. We try to get a good friend of ours who's a very famous guitarist and singer and songwriter in the industry. We were talking to him. We saw him a few weeks ago. But he had this look in his face like he just, it was a world that didn't make him comfortable. You have to learn how to do that and have some patience with yourself too. But that's been a big part of it. I listen to lots of different kinds of music at different periods. I'll go through like a 3-month section of time of just pouring music, and now with the internet access, of course, you can listen to music so much easier from all over the world now. And I do a lot of hunting around and listening for different influences worldwide. And it isn't like I like to mimic those things, but I think it's good for your ear to hear different countries' music, different styles of music, so that you it comes back through you somehow later on. Maybe not in specific ways, and sometimes in specific ways, but in any case, you have to make your playing important. Like tonight, we're at the Birchmere here in the D.C. area, Alexandria, and Virginia, and we play here often. But as I've told some people, every night that Yorma and I go on stage, tonight it's Yorma, Barry, and I go on stage. That's the most important night. That's got to be the most important night. Those 2 hours on stage. I mean, the rest of the hours were to get here. Why throw it away? And in the kind of music that we do, it's very exposed. There's just 3 of us on stage. Yorma's playing acoustic guitar with his thumb, 2 fingers. I'm playing the bass. Barry's playing mandolin and other instruments. And it's very exposed music, rhythmic-wise, everything-wise. There's not something bashing around to keep time for everybody and all that. So you change the songs around. Yorma loves to hunt up old songs to refresh them and bring them up. Children of Zion was a Reverend Gary Davis song we added to the album. It was a beautiful, fairly obscure Reverend Gary Davis song. There was numbers others. Some came out of the bluegrass world, and of course the others we write. So I think you constantly move these elements around and put them in different positions in order to get you to think fresh, in a fresh manner. Well, I prefer to work with songs. So I'm not wild about long single chord improvisational jamming. I did that a long time ago. You know, I feel that the challenge for me is more in songs and working with it. Now, that being said, within the context of that, if you guys are going to be here tonight for this show, are you?
I will be, yes.
Okay, good. Then I'll answer that question for you within the context of how you hear us play. There's plenty of room for improvisation. But we try to it's best to be woven within the song and have it take you someplace, you know, definite. To me, there has to be an end and a point to improvisation. When I'm working on lines, I was talking with some of my students out at the Fur Peace Ranch, the Yorma Calcanon Fur Peace Ranch in southeast Ohio, and where I'm going to teach in a couple of weeks at the end of this particular tour here. And they were asking me about solos, and we did a funny thing. There's a solo I do on this new album, you know, a section where I actually just do a breakdown solo for 2 courses. And I had them break the solo down, and we all did it as a solo. I've never done that before with any of my students in 15 years, you know. And I had to learn it as a piece, not as an improvisation. So that's completely different as well, because you go back over it and then you're constructing it, you know, in 4-bar sections, and you're deconstructing it, reconstructing it, putting together in order to teach hand positions and areas and all of that on the bass. And it was kind of, it was rather fascinating. I'd never done that before, taken one of the melody pieces like that, or solos. That being said, there's songs like within the Hot Tuna repertoire where I specifically work the melodies out, and they're fairly consistent from song to song, even though I may move that section around. There are certain pieces and sections within the songs that can be different from night to night, depending on maybe the tempo is a little bit slower, so that combination of notes and positions on the instrument where you may start to flesh and get your ideas out in an improvisational part of it is just not going to be right, so you're going to come up with something else. And so I try to teach my students, when they talk about or they ask, how do I think about my improvisation, I tell them it's absolutely necessary that you listen to where you've been, to where you're going to go with your solo. Part of your brain has to listen to what you're doing as your solo, not just working in the positions on the neck and the obvious notes that'll come out, you know, in the triad positions and that will lead you to get ideas. You want to think in your mind, what is this melody you're trying to think of? What is the melody? Whether it's in a blues format or it's in a major format, or whether however you want to call it after the fact, you're still constructing a melody of some kind. You know, it can be an all attitude melody, or it can be a true melody with very profound construction. But if you're doing it on the spot within that night, and you don't want to do what you did the night before, which is pretty hard to do anyway, you want to think out of the box of your block positions on the instrument, and you want to listen as you're playing that melody. Where are you going to go with that? You know, you're driving in a car and the road turns and curves. You know, it's kind of like you get to make the road as you go along. You know, and these trees come whipping by, and a building comes by and whatnot, you know, and you're really doing this yourself. You're creating this path where after the fact you look at it and you listen to it, and you see you've gone up a hill, you've gone down, you've gone low, you steadied out, and then you shot back up. You've done some different dynamic things that the melodies demanded of you. I think that's probably what I got from a lot of the jazz guys that I listened to in late 50s and early 60s. You know, the Ornette Colemans, the Eric Dolphins, the John Coltrane's, the Yusef Lateef, those players, Charlie Mingus, and those players that just would take you someplace and you wonder, wow, how did they get there? And the journey along the way is how they got there. So you have to create an environment for yourself that nurtures that as well. You can't go saying, when I play with different people, it's different. Yorm and I have been playing 50 years together. We've been playing acoustic bass and guitar combo together, which has freed us up in a lot of rhythmic ways without having, the song constructed as bass rhythm part with rhythm over the top or lead over the top. It's allowed us to do a lot of contrapuntal work, so we think of the music differently. At the same time, in that form that he plays on his acoustic guitar with the thumb going back and forth, there's the pulse. A lot of times that's what's required of the bass and drums. In another form where the guitar players play in a much more linear manner, then you're putting together a combination of licks, things that are repetitive and things that keep a good solid foundation the whole time. But when he's going like that back on the thumb, that's the basic part. He can play completely alone and it's total music. It's like two hands on the piano. Now, if he was playing just with a pick, and he was playing either rhythm or lead, you can't do that. So that allows me to do some things on the bass that I could never do in a format that would be more traditional, in more traditional band format. And when I find myself in that format, when I play with other people, then I don't do the stuff that I do there. You don't walk with that stuff into another environment. So it's very important for you to assess what your role is and with the musicians you're playing with.
So do you think that part of your greatest musical growth was just from the amount of people you got to play with?
No, not the amount. The greatest musical growth is the consistency with playing properly with one guy, Yorm McAlpin. Because you got a chance to move to different levels. We were talking the other night. I said, at the bass player live, I did this thing in Los Angeles in October, and they gave me a Lifetime Achievement Award, which I was really humbled by. But I got a chance to hear, in the room, there were 40 basses. There was 2 jams at the end of the evening. It was really hilarious. One with 13 basses, the first one I was in, and another one with another 15 or 20 on stage. But what I found interesting is reflecting over the musicians' careers of the different people that I got to meet and looking at what they did. So many of them had tremendous experience playing with so many different people. On the one hand, that's something I've never done, but on the other hand, in some cases, when you're finding new groups of musicians to play together and then you stop, and it's almost like actors going on to projects on movies and then they see these guys again and they go act with another group. And it isn't like them working with a repertoire where they work with the same people and they get to work into the next levels up of the subtleties of working with the other personalities and the more delicate nature that can come with that. So in a sense, it's like starting all over again when you work from session to session to session to session. And one of the things I benefited from is being able to play with some people where you get to the next level of your playing in the interaction of working with them.